You are born in 1924 in a town in Ohio that has no reason to be famous and never will be. A grain elevator, a dinner, a hardware store. The Depression arrived before you could walk and stayed long enough that you stopped noticing it. The way you stop noticing a smell once it becomes your own. Your father fixes farm equipment. The shop smells of oil, gasoline, and cold metal in winter. You spend most of your childhood in it, handing tools before you're asked, learning the language of engines before you learn much else. By 14, you can pull a carburetor in the dark. You are 17 years old on December 7th, 1941. You hear about Pearl Harbor on a Sunday afternoon, on the radio in your father's shop. By Tuesday, the recruiting office has a line out the door and down the block. Your father says nothing when you tell him you're enlisting. He wipes his hands on a rag. He looks at you for a long moment, not with pride, not with grief, just with the careful attention he gives to a machine he's about to trust with weight. Then he says, "Know your equipment better than the man trying to kill you." That's the whole speech. You signed the papers in January 1942. You are 18 years old. The Army, looking at your mechanical aptitude scores, decides your future in approximately 40 seconds. Armored force, tank driver. Congratulations. The United States Army has determined that your ability to understand engines makes you the ideal person to sit inside a 33-ton steel box while other people shoot at it. No one tells you this is what the assignment means. They hand you a pamphlet. There is a drawing of a tank on the front. It looks impressive. You fold it and put it in your pocket. Fort Knox, Kentucky. You arrive in February. The clay is red and the cold comes off the Ohio River like something with a grudge. 33 tons, 19 feet long, a 75-millimeter gun in the turret. Room for 5 men, commander, gunner, loader, bow gunner, and you, the driver. You sit in the hull, forward and left. Your entire window onto the world is a vision slit 4 inches tall and 12 inches wide. You will come to hate it. They teach you maintenance, track replacement in the rain, engine swaps in the dark. And once, they teach you how to bail out of a burning tank. That one they teach you twice. In a dry tank, through a hatch that opens correctly, you can be out in 8 seconds. In a burning tank, one whose ammunition has begun to cook off, you have approximately 30 seconds. They tell you this the way a dentist tells you something will sting. You write it down and do not think about it more than you have to. You will think about it later. In the dark, in a field in Belgium, in December, when the number 30 stops being abstract. You arrived in North Africa in early 1943. Tunisia. The desert is nothing like the photographs. Distances lie to you here. Your first engagement is a probe toward German positions outside Magnasi. You don't see the 88-millimeter gun on the ridge. You see the tank in front of yours stop, not explode, not shatter, just stop, then begin to burn. Your commander says, "Back, back, back." You back the Sherman into a depression, and the tank in front of you burns for 40 minutes and no one gets out. You don't talk about it that night. You eat your rations. You notice your hands are steady. You sleep. Over the following months, you learn things about your tank that Fort Knox mentioned, but did not emphasize. A Tiger's 88-millimeter gun destroys a Sherman at 2,000 meters. Your 75 needs to be within 500 meters to penetrate a Tiger's front armor, and only if the angle is right. The Germans begin calling your tank the Tommy Cooker. The British call it the Ronson, after the cigarette lighter whose slogan reads, "Lights first time, every time." You hear this from a British tanker over a shared cigarette. He says it without malice, just as a fact about the world. Your unit came ashore in Normandy on June 9, 1944. The bocage, the hedgerow country south of the beaches, turns out to be the worst ground in Europe for armor. Earthen banks 4 to 6 feet high, rooted solid with oak and hawthorn, walling the landscape into hundreds of small fields. Each field is its own fortress. Each lane between them is a shooting gallery. You lose your second tank on June 22nd. Panzerfaust round, hull right side. You are out in 11 seconds. Your gunner does not make it. By the end of the week, you have a new tank and a new gunner. He is 19 from Georgia and calls you Sarge even though you are not a sergeant. You don't correct him. You stop correcting things that don't matter to staying alive. Then came July 25th, 1944. Operation Cobra. The Army Air Forces carpet bomb the German line ahead of your position. You feel it in the earth before you hear it. The vibration coming up through the tank's floor, through the soles of your boots, into your bones. It lasts 40 minutes. When it stops, your unit moves forward, and the line breaks. For the first time since England, your tank is moving at full speed. Villages come and go. French people line the roads. Children running alongside the tracks, A woman who pushes a loaf of bread through your open hatch and doesn't stop walking. Your commander is grinning. Your gunner from Georgia is talking too much, and for once, nobody tells him to stop. In late August, your unit helped close the ring around two entire German armies near Falaise. Over 50,000 prisoners. For a few weeks that feel longer in memory than they were in calendar time, you believe, most of you believe, that the war will be over by Christmas. It is not over by Christmas. The supply lines stretch past breaking, force a halt. The Germans regroup, and in headquarters you will never see, a plan is finalized to push two armies into the Ardennes in December, through the weakest point in the Allied line. Your unit parks near Werbermont, Belgium. The cold gets into everything. Your uniform, your hands, the engine joints, the grease and the track pins. The engine needs an hour of warm-up each morning. You do it yourself, in the dark, in the open. Your gunner from Georgia says it is colder than anywhere in the Bible. At night, you sleep inside the tank and lie there listening to the silence, trying not to count the days since anyone mentioned the war being almost over. December 16th, 1944. Before dawn, the German artillery begins. More guns, more sustained than anything before. The ground trembles the way a living thing trembles when it is frightened. Your commander's voice comes over the intercom. Mount up. By noon, the picture is clear. A German offensive, larger than anyone predicted, is pushing through the Ardennes. Fog grounds all Allied air support. American units to your south are being overrun. The word on the radio is breakthrough. Your unit moves to hold a road junction. Nobody explains what happens if the reinforcements don't arrive. The fog is total. 30 meters of visibility, less in the low ground. You are moving in column, second tank, when the commander calls halt. He sees something. You stop. Through the vision slit, you see the shape emerging from the fog. Large, very large. The turret profile is wrong for anything American or British. The gun barrel is longer than it should be. Tiger. You are already doing the math. The math Fort Knox taught you in Tunisia confirmed. The Tiger's 88 destroys a Sherman at 2,000 meters. You are 30 meters apart. The turret is traversing. The gun is already on you. The round enters the left side of the hull. The sound is not what you expected. Not a bang. More like the world being slapped from the inside. Then heat, immediately everywhere. The ammunition rack begins to cook off, and you are moving. You don't remember deciding to move. And the hatch is open and you are outside, and the snow is on your face, and your hands are burning. You roll. The snow helps. The tank burned for over an hour. The loader made it out. The bow gunner did not. Your gunner, the one from Georgia, who called you Sarge for 7 months and talked too much and never once complained about the cold without also making a joke about it, did not. A field hospital, then France, then England. Your hands are burned. Your hearing in your left ear is gone. They say it may improve. It does not. You are in that hospital on May 8th, 1945, when the Germans surrender. Men in the corridor are crying, laughing, both. You lie in your bed and look at the ceiling and feel something that is not quite relief and not quite grief and not quite anything you have a word for. You go home that summer. Your father's on the platform. He looks at your hands and says nothing about them. He grips your shoulder once and leads you toward the truck. You go back to the garage, you fix engines. People say you're better at it now. More patient, more precise. You understand why. You don't talk about the tank. When men at the diner ask, you say it was cold. They laugh and change the subject, and you are grateful every time. The gunner from Georgia, you never learned his mother's address. They probably sent a telegram. Probably it said he died in the service of his country. Probably it said he was brave. He was 19 years old. He called you Sarge. He talked too much. That is what you know. For the rest of your life, when someone calls the Sherman a good tank, you nod. It was. It ran. It crossed North Africa, Sicily, and France. It broke the line at Cobra and helped close the Falaise Pocket. It did what it was built to do. For the rest of your life, when someone calls the Sherman a death trap, you nod at that too. Both things are completely true, which is the only thing you know for certain about armor. The machine that carries you and the machine that kills you are often the same machine. You just don't know which one you're in until the round comes through the wall. You did not choose the tank. The Army looked at a mechanic's son from Ohio and saw a driver. The Germans looked at a driver in a Sherman and saw a target. History looked at both of you and called it a campaign. They gave you 30 tons of steel and told you it was protection. What they didn't tell you is that protection and a target are the same shape. The only difference is which side of the gun you're on.